just went out and smacked Houston around like Houston was just a dude. I mean, they Mike Tyson them. It was amazing to just watch those first few innings. I'm like, my God, I wound up getting out of that, going over to the NFL game, which was much more competitive. And Tony, the weird thing is we've just seen Houston in this circumstance a few years ago with your Nationals, where nobody could win at home. And it's like,
lost them all.
Okay, that was like, I think, the first time in history. And now you get it just a few years later. And yet it's not like it's a pattern. Houston was great at home last postseason. I don't know what it means. Is there some indictment of the Astros we should look at? Maybe not. I mean, they get to this point. They come into the postseason. They fight you. They can still win dramatically. They can still throw pitching at you if Verlander is out there and he came back for this. I don't know what to make of it really, but good for Texas. Good for the Texas Rangers to say, we don't care if they were the champs. We are now in the big event in the World Series.
Yeah, so, I was saddened by the fact that Max Scherzer did not give a Warrior God performance. He was hit hard, and he was out in the third inning. But Texas hit harder than Houston hit. They got 15 hits. And Garcia, he seemed to thrive in the wake of being hit by Brian Abreu and all of that controversy.
Point,
Last night, he had 4 hits and 5 RBI, and I wondered why Dusty Baker pitched to him at all. And I want to get the name right, I wondered why Dusty left in J.P. France for 8 batters in the 4th inning when he had given up 5 hits and 4. This is an elimination game. You got to get him out of there. You talk about the fact that everybody loses at home. Mike, if I own the Astros and they have a 40-47 record this year and they're World Series defending champions, I even think about reconfiguring the ballpark to suit my hitters. I don't understand this.
But they were great there last year. They've been great there in other years. Tony, it's just this really uneven thing.
It's strange.
It's historically weird, isn't it?
By the way, do you know that Bruce Bochy, who's now going back to the World Series for maybe a 4th ring?
How about that?
He's 6-0 all time in elimination games. Well, 6-0.
Amazing. And,
it's
people did. I wonder how many teams would have seriously looked at Bochy. Well, one team got it right. Tonight, we get Game 7 in the National League. The Diamondbacks forced it by beating the Phillies 5-1 in last night's Game 6 in Philly. Arizona's going to send Brandon Pfaadt to the mound tonight against Ranger Suarez. Tony, to whom do you give the edge?
So I've been watching this series carefully, as have you. I've been watching the Phillies throughout the entire playoffs. I know they lost Game 6 at home last night, but unlike Houston, they had been great at home. They had been 6-0 at home. 2 over Miami, 2 over Atlanta, and 2 over Arizona. So, I look at that, and I look at the fact that their home crowd, to me, Mike, seems to elevate them more than other home crowds elevate their home team. So I'm going to pick Philadelphia, but I am cautioned by what I saw last night in Houston. Maybe this is the year that the unknown teams get in, and if there's any team that's possibly more unknown than Texas, it's Arizona.
Yeah, Tony, I'm not going to disagree with any of that. I don't know about any edge. And to hell with the edge. I'm rooting hard for Arizona now, and not because I spend a lot of my time in Arizona. I'm not. I'm rooting against Eastern presumption because I got angry yesterday when I picked up the newspaper where I live, and I read our friend and a great columnist, Barry Verluga, saying, oh, it's better for baseball if Philadelphia wins. So another Eastern person telling us that the Eastern team has to win because anybody else other than the Eastern team along I-95, it is not valid. To hell with that. And now I am just rooting against people like you and Verluga, both of whom I love.
No, I got involved in this.
Yeah,
I'm involved
in
this now.
I'm just throwing you in. I'm dragging you into this. I'm dragging you in. Because you said on this air that the league must want Philadelphia to win because nobody knows Arizona. And now Eastern presumption has angered me, and I'm rooting as hard as I can for Arizona.
I don't have Eastern presumption. I have what is called reality, and ratings understanding.
Yeah, ratings.
A big Eastern city draws more people.
Yeah.
Here's what I would tell you.
The
what I worry
Western
about
city's
most with
bigger than
Philadelphia.
the Eastern city now.
I worry. Can you give me a chance?
I just want to
I worry about the bullpen. I worry about Kirkering. I worry about Kimbrel. My comfort level on that series is Philadelphia has to go into the 8th inning up by 4, or I worry.
You
we
should
move
be
now to the
rooting
NFL.
against the bearded first baseman. Being a Washingtonian and a Nationals guy, you should be rooting against Bryce Harper, huh?
No, I'm rooting against North Scottsdale.
I know you.
That's
I know
what I'm
that.
rooting against.
I know you are.
We move to the NFL where all the pretentious
You
people
and
go for
Verluga.
second homes.
Both
The
of them.
49ers lost again last night.
Third
Gated
homes.
communities. That's 2 in a row. This time it was at Minnesota. Hardly a powerhouse this year, 2-4 coming in. But they led every step of the way. Kirk Cousins wasn't sacked at all. Threw for 378 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. In contrast, Brock Purdy threw for 100 fewer yards, was intercepted twice. Well, but how concerned should the 49ers be about their sackless defense and the suddenly mortal Brock Purdy?
Tony, they should be. There's every reason for that to be a primary discussion. It is, because the 49ers, a couple of weeks ago were 5-0 and looked like world beaters, and now they're not. But, Tony, I'm going the other way on this. I mean, we've seen Kirk Cousins, you and I up close, because he was here first in Washington, where he had these kinds of games. He doesn't have them all the time. If he had them all the time, he'd be Joe Montana. He doesn't have them all the time. And you know what? Hardly anybody has them all the time, except that 4 or 5 quarterback group at the top of the league at any time that is going to the Hall of Fame. So Kirk Cousins can have these games. He does have these games occasionally. And when he does, his team wins, and they can get to the playoffs with a really good regular season record. They are still in it in the NFC Central because neither one of us, and me more than you, I don't trust Detroit. Not yet. They got to prove more to me. So I'm putting this on Kirk Cousins. I think he had a great game. He was missing his best receiver and the next best offensive player, the best offensive player on that team, just like San Francisco was missing Deebo Samuel.
So if you had told me before this game that Deebo Samuels and Christian McCaffrey would be out because of the injuries they suffered last week, I would have said to you, it's possible they can lose on the road.
Right.
But McCaffrey played the whole game and scored the 2 touchdowns, so that wasn't the problem. Mike, yesterday I talked about putting teams in the don't pick me box. Talked about Buffalo, Miami, Detroit, the don't pick me box. I am so reticent to put San Francisco in the don't pick me box. I just don't want to do it. But what is true now in the last few weeks in the NFL is of all the teams we thought were legitimate contenders, there's only 2 that have avoided either losing twice or getting crushed in a game. And that's Kansas City and Philadelphia.
Yep.
They seem to me, Mike, they've opened up some distance on the rest of the pack. They've opened it up. There's light between them and the others at this point. We're less than 2 hours away from the tip-off of the NBA season, and joining us to talk about it is our great friend from NBA Today, the guy I used to push around in the paint, Mr. Kendrick Perkins. Stay with me on this, Perk. There's a long first question. The Lakers and the Nuggets are the early game. For weeks, LeBron has expressed annoyance at the fact that Nuggets coach Michael Malone was referred to, I guess, at the Denver Victory Parade as the Lakers' daddy. LeBron's been in the league for 100 years. He's won everything there is to win. Do you think LeBron and the Lakers are honestly motivated by this stuff?
Tony, let me ask you a question. Do you remember the characters Brandy and Darnell? You know what movie that come off of? I'm going to tell you.
I do not. I do not.
I'm going to tell you. A thin line between love and hate. Because you just remember, right? Michael Malone and LeBron James, they used to be friends. When have we ever seen LeBron James respond to somebody on social media? We saw it with the Denver Nuggets this past offseason. So, yes, he does have something to prove. And I feel like he's going to come in there to send a message tonight and spoil the Denver Nuggets ceremony, ring ceremony tonight. And it's going to be addressed to Michael Malone.
Ooh. Intrigue on opening night. We like that. The second game, by the way, Perk, is pretty darn good, too. Suns and Warriors up in the Bay, up in San Francisco. And Bradley Beal and Draymond Green may not play because of the opening night injuries. But when you look at those teams, long range, meaning for this season, Is there one that you like more than another? They're both going to be in the fray in the Western Conference.
Oh, it's the Phoenix Suns. It's the Phoenix Suns. It's no way that you have three of the most prolific, efficient scorers in the game on one squad that's underrated playmakers in KD, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker. And the pieces that they added around them, Eric Gordon, I love the pickup for us with the trade to get Big Nurkic. And you know the deciding factor in this? Frank Vogel. People do not give Frank Vogel enough credit what he do as a coach on the defensive side of things. They're going to be unstoppable offensively, but the energy that they're going to bring defensively because of the voice of Frank Vogel, that's going to be the separation between the Phoenix Suns and everybody else in the Western Conference.
Tony, you know I like hearing that, don't you? And Watanabe, I like that Watanabe pickup in the relationship he has with Kevin Durant.
Hey, Wilborn, I wanted to say his name, but I ain't really know how to pronounce it. I ain't want to take up 10 minutes of the show.
We like Watanabe as well. Perk, there's going to be a guy we start talking about. We already been talking about him for 2 years, but now it really starts. Victor Wembanyama, of course, has his debut tomorrow night against the Mavericks in San Antonio. Perk, Tony's a little skeptical still. Tony keeps saying, hey, wait a minute, I don't care about preseason. Let me see regular season, late regular season and beyond. Tony's a little skeptical. Where are you on Victor Wembanyama?
I'm not skeptical at all. I am a believer, even if it is preseason. Matter of fact, I have Victor Wembanyama winning Defensive Player of the Year. I believe offensively he's a 7-4 version of Kevin Durant. And he's going to have the Spurs in the thick of things, meaning play-in tournament this season. He's that good. Tony, in the next 3 years, Victor Wembanyama will be the best player in the league on both ends of the floor. And he's going to make a serious impact this season. He's the real deal.
Wow. Perk.
You may be right about that. You may be right
like
that he is going to be the best player in the league in 3 years, but probably the best player in the league right now, I would think, in the running for it is Giannis Antetokounmpo. We haven't talked about the East at all. He just signed a 3-year extension that's going to pay him $62 million a year. Seems like a lot of money to me. Do you like Milwaukee in the East to come out of the East, or do you like someone else in the East to come out of the East?
I love Milwaukee. And not just because of the duo of Damian Lillard, who averaged 32 last season, and Giannis. I could just imagine how that two-man game is going to look. It's going to be unstoppable. But then I think about money-making Middleton, Chris Middleton, who's going to be their third option. I think about the depth that they have on their front line. When you think about Giannis and Brook Lopez, Robin Lopez, Bobby Portis, who could have won Sixth Man of the Year last year. You add a Malik Beasley, Jay Crowder come back. You still got Pat Connaughton over there. This roster is set to win now. And no disrespect to the Celtics, no disrespect to the 76ers or the Heat, but the Milwaukee Bucks, in my opinion, have the best team in the Eastern Conference, and I feel like they're going to represent the Eastern Conference this year in the NBA Finals.
So, Perkins, sounds like Suns
and
Milwaukee for you.
Yeah, that's it. That's my early season prediction for the Finals.
There we go. We're going to put a pin in it. Perk,
thanks so much for joining us again. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Hey, Tony, I need you to go check out A Thin Line Between Love and Hate and text me and tell me what you think about it, all right?
Yeah, I'm sure I'm going to watch that between innings of the baseball tonight. Let's take one last break.
And should Matt LaFleur remain confident in Jordan Love as the Packers' starting quarterback?
No.
Tony, you might be the last holdout. I know you're not saying Wembanyama's not ever going to be great.
He hasn't played 1 minute in the league. Happy time, people. Happy 24th birthday, Amon-Ra St. Brown. The Lions receiver was a 4th-round pick out of USC in 2021, and he has been nothing but terrific. As a rookie, it was his idea to give his sons names like Amon-Ra, Equanimous, and Osiris.
Tony, you can name them the sun, the moon, and the stars. If you can raise and produce multiple professional athletes in one family, God bless. You can do anything you want to do, and those guys are learned. I like that as well.
I'm so surprised you didn't name Matthew Equanimous.
Equanimous. It was
right there
taken.
for
I
you.
just thought it was taken.
Happy anniversary, Wilt Chamberlain. On this day 64 years ago, the Big Dipper made his NBA debut with the Philadelphia Warriors.
Woo.
In a win over the New York Knicks, Wilt's career began with 43 points and 28 rebounds. First player to win Rookie of the Year and MVP in the same season, Wes Unseld is the only other rookie to do that. Wilt's averages as a rookie, 37 points, 27 rebounds. Wilbon, let's see your boy Wembanyama do that.
If he if he even has that for one game tonight, it'll break the internet. As my dear friend Jalen Rose always says, there's one record book in the NBA for everybody, and then there's one for Wilt. Pay attention, boys, because that sums it up. There's one for Wilt, just one.
Happy trails to the Padres for Bob Melvin. The Giants have hired him away after a quick interview process. Melvin grew up in the Bay Area, played for the Giants for 3 seasons in the 80s. This will now be the 5th team he has managed. Melvin managed the NL West rival Padres the past 2 seasons. They made the NLCS in his first, but they missed this year's playoffs despite huge expectation and huge commitment of money to that team. He had 1 year left on his deal in San Diego. The last manager the Padres let leave for the Giants, a guy by the name of Bruce Bochy, who led San Francisco to 3 World Series titles and will now try to win his first with the Rangers.
Tony, it sounds like the Padres are straight up blaming him for what they didn't do this season. You don't want to blame any of those players you're paying almost like NBA salaries. You don't want to blame them. You just want to blame the manager? I don't know about that. Could backfire on you.
So I'm not surprised at all that he's not there anymore because of exactly what you're saying. Just like I'm not surprised that Buck Showalter isn't going to be with the Mets anymore because of all the money that they spend, and you got to hold somebody accountable, and that's who they hold accountable. Bob Melvin took Oakland to the playoffs. Oakland, no money. Took Oakland to the playoffs 6 times. He'd been to the playoffs 8 times with 3 different teams. He seems to me a quality manager, right?
Yes. I wouldn't have fired him. Not after this 1 year.
No.
Fire some of those players.
I got rid of a player or 2. I'd run off a player before I fired a good manager. We're running out of show. We go to the big finish.
Let's do it.
Which is the best game?
I'm going to say, of course, I got my own bias. I'm going to say Bruins, Blackhawks. Connor Bedard, I'm watching him.
Blackhawks, what a shock.
Yeah.
We're out of time. We'll try and do better the next time. I got to read this. Happy birthday to our producer's high school prom date's husband, Sonny.
There we go, a couple of degrees removed. I'm Mike Wilbon, same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the podcast on the app or Apple Podcast. What, you disappointed I'm not picking